Despite the huge amount of backlash and controversy surrounding Pokemon Sword and Shield for months on end, it is performing just as well as you could expect a Pokemon game to perform. In addition to that, the internet has been very vocal as a whole with praise for this game, essentially saying that the game is very fun, it's very engaging, there's a lot to do, and all of the criticism and bad publicity that this game is getting doesn't really hold any water when it comes to the amount of enjoyment and fun that you can get out of these games as a whole. Even with the huge amount of positive feedback, however, Pokemon Sword and Shield are not perfect games either. And just like any other Pokemon game, for as many awesome and amazing features that they have, they definitely have some bad moments within them as well, and today we are going to talk about the duality of that, because I am going to go over what I believe are the best and worst things about Pokemon Sword and Shield. All of this is entirely my own opinion based on my own experience with the game, and I am definitely not out to bash the game because I personally think it's wonderful, as many of you probably know, but I'm not out to tout it as the most perfect game of all time, as you will see with the worst points either. It's kind of just looking at the good and bad of this game and stating what I personally loved and didn't really like at all about the title in my opinion. There's obviously going to be spoilers in this video as well if you still want to remain spoiler free, so you have been warned, but with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look. Starting off with one of the best things about this game, I absolutely love the wild area. When I started exploring the wild area more in depth in my main playthrough and that bagpipe music kicked in for the first time, I was absolutely blown away, and I honestly had to take a step back and honestly absorb what was happening in that moment. It felt so majestic, so triumphant, and is honestly going to go down as one of the most amazing moments within a Pokemon game that I have personally ever experienced. It's absolutely phenomenal. Overall, the wild area is such an amazing, immensely enjoyable part of this game, and I can only hope that the idea of an open world area within a Pokemon game, or an open world Pokemon game as a whole, continues to grow and evolve from this point, because the wild area proved just how fantastic that can be. Changing gears a little bit and looking at one of the worst things about the game, at least in my opinion, would be the evil team, that being Team Yell, as well as the pacing of the story. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't outright hate Team Yell, but they are by far the weakest evil team we have seen to date, and the extent of their evilness is essentially blocking your path every once in a while, which you can easily get through with a Pokemon battle. They don't remotely threaten you or anything like that, it's literally just they block your path every once in a while, and that's about it. They're basically the most unintimidating and unthreatening evil team we have ever seen in the history of Pokemon, and even though they are not the primary antagonist of the game, they still could have done more to be an actual evil team that we know Pokemon evil teams to be. And then really quick before we move on, I am going to touch on the pacing of the story within this game. Even though I overall enjoyed the story of Pokemon Sword and Shield, and it was well enough for a Pokemon game, I thought the pacing of it as a whole was a little bit off, because the story doesn't really start to make an impact on what's going on until the very, very end of the game. And even though that climax at the end of the game is phenomenal and really enjoyable, it leaves the whole rest of the game as kind of devoid of any story or plot. Anytime something comes up, other characters in the game, such as Sonia or Leon, tell you to not worry about it, they'll take care of it, and you just continue with your gym challenge. You don't really get to see a whole lot plot-wise until the very end, which is a bit disappointing, even though, like I said, the climax of the story overall was really, really good. Moving back to the best side of things, one of the things Pokemon Sword and Shield did amazingly well was its character development. Nearly all of the major characters within this game had a specific individualized arc where they had their own story, and their character as an individual developed over time and became something different than what they started out with at the beginning of the game. For example, we saw Hop go from a young boy who just wanted to beat his brother as the champion to a person who actually decided they wanted to become a Pokemon professor and became a professor's assistant, to Sonia. And speaking of Sonia, we saw her go from a professor's assistant to an actual professor of her own as well. It was just so amazing and fantastic to be able to see all of these awesome characters take up these new roles as you continued throughout the game, and to see each one of their stories individually unfold as time went on and be able to kind of witness that as the player was just absolutely fantastic. However, going back to the worst side of things, one of the worst things for sure about Sword and Shield is the hand-holding at the beginning of the game. For the first hour or two of the game, they simply cannot let you do what you want to do without someone coming in and telling you exactly where to go. You don't really have free reign over what you want to see and what you want to do, because every 5 minutes you have someone coming up to you and telling you exactly what you need to do next, and basically there isn't a whole lot of wiggle room in between that. It's a very linear, very direct focus type of tutorial part of the game that really starts to drag on after not a whole lot of time. The next best thing that I want to talk about that Sword and Shield did was the use of its legendary Pokemon. In my opinion, bar none, far and away compared to every other Pokemon game, Sword and Shield has the best use of its legendary Pokemon that we have ever seen in any Pokemon game ever. Because not only did you get to experience one of the box art legendary Pokemon, you got to experience both of them within the same game playing a major role, which is absolutely phenomenal. And then on top of that, we also got to see the third legendary quote-unquote play a major role as well, which also never happens unless it's the obligatory Platinum or Emerald third game in the generation. And on top of that, this legendary Pokemon was the antagonist of the games. You also got to have the two aforementioned box art legendaries fight with you on your team against this main villain in Eternatus. And that whole dynamic where every single legendary is involved, they all have this unique new role that we really haven't seen before for the most part, was so unbelievably satisfying, enjoyable, fun, amazing, phenomenal. I just thought it was far and away the best legendary experience that we've ever had in a single Pokemon game. And then, as if that wasn't enough, being able to see Hop, the rival who has been struggling with his strength and confidence the whole game, get one of these legendary Pokemon, be able to capture it, and then use it in a battle against you and the legendary Pokemon that you have obtained, was absolutely incredible. That was such a phenomenal part of the game, and like I said, easily makes Pokemon Sword and Shield the best Pokemon game ever in terms of the way it used its legendary Pokemon. Unfortunately though, we do have to go back to the worst side of things, and one of the worst things about this game that I'm going to talk about now is arguably the most publicized, and that would be the graphics of the game. Now, the graphics, in my opinion, are very much a mixed bag, but amongst all the other things in the game, I would say the graphics definitely end up lower on the totem pole. There are certain areas of the game that look fantastic, like Balanleia, for instance, or you also have the Galar Mine, or even the various other cities and towns within the game. I think those all look pretty good. But then when you head into the wild area, for instance, there are the infamous trees, of course, and then there are a number of other little ticky-tack type of things, like the render distance not being very good, you being able to see people kind of float in and out of existence just right before your eyes. There are certain things like that that while they don't really affect your enjoyment of the game, they can certainly be observed, and you can observe them to not be the best that they could be in the graphical department. Back to the best though, and the next thing I want to talk about that was very positive about Sword and Shield were its Galarian forms and its new evolutions to old Pokemon. The way that Game Freak handled both of these concepts was an absolute 10 out of 10. First off, with the Galarian forms, not only did they give us more than just Kanto forms like we desperately wanted from the days of Sun and Moon, they represented several regions with these regional variants that we got, showing off regional forms for Kanto Pokemon, Johto Pokemon, Unova Pokemon, and Hoenn Pokemon as well, and I might be forgetting one or two as well. It was really a wide variety of representation in terms of who got the regional form treatment. And then the evolutions themselves were also really fantastic as well. Everything from Cursula to Berserker to Obstagoon, I believe we got a really nice batch of new evolutions, and overall, I thought this was a fantastic addition to an overall fantastic game. Back to the worst side of things though is something that I am really disappointed to have to say it is one of the worst parts about the game, because I had such high hopes for it going into it, but the post-game of Pokemon Sword and Shield definitely leaves a lot to be desired. While there is a designated post-game quest that involves two new characters, Swordward and Shieldbert, who are basically harassing the legendaries Zacian and Zamazenta, and then this is where you also catch Zacian or Zamazenta, this part of the game is entirely too short. It's over very quickly, and once it's over, that's pretty much it. That is the completed post-game, and the only other thing that becomes available in the post-game is the Battle Tower, which, even if you like the Battle Tower, it's just the Battle Tower that we've seen in basically every other Pokemon game ever. Now, that is not really speaking to the longevity of the game and the amount of things there are to do, because there are plenty of things that you can do after you've completed the main story that give you plenty of reason to play the game, and I think Sword and Shield does that really well. But in terms of things that specifically and only are available once you beat the game that are specific post-game activities, the list of those things within this game is entirely too short, it's entirely too shallow, and it was an extremely disappointing part of the game for me personally. Going back to the positives though, the last best thing that I'm going to talk about in this video is also one of the best things that Sword and Shield did overall, and that is the wild Pokemon variety that is available in this game. Without a doubt, Pokemon Sword and Shield have the best variety of wild Pokemon out of any other Pokemon game ever, and it's not even close. This is another thing that made the wild area so fantastic, because the largest variety of wild Pokemon in these games can be found within the wild area, and you can find everything from Rotom to Steelix to Glaceon, Pokemon who were never ever able or meant to be caught in the wild, or at the very least outside of a static encounter, can now just be caught super casually within the wild itself, and it is absolutely phenomenal. And finally, we are unfortunately going to end this video on a negative note, because I have one more worst thing to go over, and that would be the final evolutions of the starter Pokemon. Now, when it comes to starter Pokemon and their evolutions, they seldom ever are a part of this type of list about the worst parts of any given Pokemon game. But when it comes to the final evolutions of the Galar starters, they are definitely just that. Inteleon is pretty creepy and way too humanoid, Cinderace pulls off its design combination of a rabbit and a soccer player way too basically and just seems to lack a lot of creativity, and Rillaboom, even though it's not the worst thing in the world, just really isn't that great either. This was definitely one of the biggest letdowns of the game, because people always anticipate and look forward to the starter Pokemon and their evolutions with every new Pokemon generation, and the final evolutions, to say the least, just did not live up to the hype and left a lot of people, myself included, very disappointed. But with that being said, those are the best and worst things, in my opinion, about Pokemon Sword and Shield. If you guys enjoyed the video though, be sure to give it a like and let me know what you think of my opinions and my picks in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Just remember that this is my opinion, and if you feel differently, that's completely fine, but yeah, let me know with a comment below. If you are new to the channel as well, be sure to subscribe for more Pokemon content all the time, and if you'd like to support the channel further, you can do so by checking me out on Spotify or giving my Pokemon Cardinal project a watch if you haven't yet either, and either one of those things, if you decide to support them, is massively appreciated and directly supports the production of videos right here. With that being said though, I will be back with another video on Saturday actually, because this Thursday is actually Thanksgiving, and because it lands on an upload day, I have decided to just enjoy the holiday with my family and not worry about a video, and also use that extra time to get ahead of my schedule as well. Be sure to hit the notification bell so you can know when that goes live as well, and with that being said, I hope you know I love you guys, and I will smell you guys later.